Yeah. Hi, Manisha. Hi, Gitika.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
We're waiting for Gitika. I think she's connecting.
Yeah, she's also connecting.
She's connecting through audio?
No, it's taking time for her to connect. That's it. And she's here.
Hi, Gitika.
Hi.
Hi, Gitika.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Oh, so we matching.
What? We are matching. Yeah. What if Mansi also comes? Manisha also comes wearing white.
I'm right here. Can you hear me, Gitika?
Hi.
Hi. No, I'm matching Vinav. Poor Vinav shouldn't feel isolated and
Dark blue.
color coordinated with the man.
Okay, so we like also.
Are you taking this live in what? 1 minute, 2 minutes?
Oh, we, I guess, already are, right? On
Yeah,
Facebook?
yeah, we're live on Facebook.
Oh, and then
That's okay. Okay. So, hi, everyone. Welcome to Women Able. I'm Mansi Dhanak.
And I'm Vinay Bhanavat. With Build from Zero and Women Able, we are actually bringing out stories of amazing people from across the globe who are doing amazing work through their businesses or as an individual, and have done actually amazing stories like that are built from zero, like from scratch. And we're trying to bring them out through these platforms. And this is one live session with Gitika and Manisha, with Mansi. We're trying to talk about how she did it and take it forward now.
Sure. So, Uncut Insights with Mansi, Vinav, with Gitika, Manisha. We're basically going to talk about trials and tribulations today. So, there's obviously too much, but then we have two super moms right now, right here with us. And they are also like basically doing everything that they can to inspire young women, young girls. And they're rocking their own professional world as well. So there's obviously a lot in terms of introducing both of you, but then I'll just try and keep it short. So we have Manisha, who's the CEO of Molly's. And Manisha has basically been an accidental investment banker, and we met around 3 years back. And her story and her journey has been absolutely inspiring. Same goes with Gitika. There's so much of coincidence, and there's so many common factors with the two of you. Gitika has also been an accidental anchor, and from being a confused teenager to being a very confident award-winning anchor, she's come a long way. So Gitika, I think so we'll start with you. You've basically, there's around 2 decades of experiences now. After, I guess in 2003 or 2013, you joined back after being a mother. So we can actually start with what you started from, and tell me about everything that you can.
First of all, hi to two of you, both of you, and hi, Manisha. And yes, she's an accidental investment banker, and I'm an accidental anchor. And Manisha, I happen to be married to a banker, so not a common point.
That's married to a banker too, so that's another thing in common with us.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And hello to everybody who's watching us live, and thank you both for having us on this. Where do you want me to start from, Mansi? Because my journey is too long, and I do want to eat up half of your show.
Let's start with getting back to work in 2000.
Oh, okay. In 2013, yeah. So I had my daughter in 2010, and I took my own time to recover from the cesarean operation, and I was hands-on with her for 2 years, for the first 2 years, like every mother is. And I didn't really focus on my own physical fitness or my own well-being too much, which is not very good. In 2013, I decided that I would actively come back to work. For those 2 years here and there, I would do a bit of work. But in 2013, I decided I would actively now drive my business. And that is when I realized that I was looking at walls. Walls were staring into my face. it was almost like I, as the anchor, had evaporated. Something very drastic had changed for me in the industry that I had already been a part of for more than a decade, and I had already done a very solid body of work. Here I was married, I had a daughter, I had my weight was not the same as it was before, and of course I had lost complete touch with the people in the industry. I had also lost complete touch with new technology that had taken over our category. Um, it took me quite a while before I could impress on people that I may be older or I may be heavier, but I'm still the same anchor and I'm still willing to work as hard and I'll still deliver the project for you in absolutely the same way that I used to do before. I'm putting this very gently, but what I went through was a lot of emotional turmoil. And I was called a lot of things behind my back. I was sniggered at. I was insulted. I was offended on many occasions. But I kept going, and the more they pinned me down, the more a fire in my belly became alive. And I said, I'm not going to do this for myself. I'm going to do this for all the women out there who just want to focus on the craft of their job, the core of their job, and do the job basis that. And that being a mom or being not completely in shape should not really take away from your skill or from your craft. So I'm happy to say that I did make a dent in that universe. And here I am today. I do some of the best projects that our industry mounts in the extinguishing business. And I am the age that I am the way that I am in terms of the weight, I am the way that I look. But I think end of the day, my craft or my skill, whatever little that I brought onto the table, won. And I think it's a huge battle that I won out there for all the women, who will want to now, after having kids and after getting married and not worrying too much about the way they look, still want to continue as main stage anchors in the country.
That's what we need. And you two are leading examples. Thank you so much, Geetika. Coming to you, Manisha, you've been a leading investment banker. You've been an inspiration to a lot of young girls and women in the corporate world also. Plus, obviously, being an amazing mother to Tara. I personally have a lot of respect for you, and you've been, creating, I guess, the impact since last 2 decades in a male-dominated industry. And there's basically a lot, but then I guess if you can define your role in this path, it'll basically be of great help to people listening to you, watching. And the story that we've posted has obviously a lot of these things about you, but if in short you can define your role.
Sure. Thank you, Mansi, and thank you, Vinav, and I wish you all luck in your journey. So just to recap, I think if I just go back to my childhood, I was the favorite child of my parents and the extended family. So I was brought up in an environment where it was believed that a girl child is special and should be treated that way. So when I joined work and I went into this male-dominated world where, women were, the only role that girls and women played in these offices were that of secretary or that of admin. And, they were sort of deferring to the male. So I was in a real shock. It was a real paradigm shift for me because I was used to be treated as more than equal. I think between me and my brother, there was no question who was the more favorite child, and he resents it to date. But that's how life was. And so I think it was very challenging, both for me and for my colleagues and clients. I don't think anyone thought that I had the resilience or the staying power for an investment banking career. And I was given odd jobs like going and fetching pizzas or coffee. And when I started off, because people just didn't want to invest in upgrading my analytical skills because people didn't think I would stay. And I took all of that on my chin and I said, look, I'll just keep going because that was the only way I knew. Because though I was an accidental banker, as you said, Mansi, I fell in love with what I did. And I wanted to stay and I wanted to prove that I was good at it and as good as my male colleagues. So I kept going. And I think through grit, resilience, and just agility, I think 28 years later, I'm still doing the same thing. My daughter thinks I'm boring because I'm 28 years later, I do the same thing, but it's because I love what I do. So I think that's in a nutshell my journey. It's a story of just resilience and just falling in love with what I do. And I think that's what held me in good stead.
Manisha, even my daughter thinks I'm boring. So that's another common point.
That's a thing in common. Excellent. You can never play it right for teenage daughters. It's just not work.
Mine is much younger. She still says that.
Oh, wait till they come to be 17. Wait, hang in there.
There are a lot of mothers also right now watching us on Global Divas. So it's basically a community with a lot of women, and there are a lot of mothers also, working mothers and like just mothers. So is there anything that you both would like to tell them, like one line message?
Manisha, would you like to go for that?
So I think, look, if you're not yet a mother, if you're embarking on a corporate career and you want to have a family life, choose your partner well, choose your husband well, choose a man who thinks of you as an equal partner, who thinks of your career and your job as something as aspirational as his own. I think that's critical to survive. If you want to have a journey which is long, because a corporate career is a marathon, not a sprint, then choose your partner well. Make your partner and your children a part of your success. Make them own your success. It's really important to make them feel part of it. I think, Mansi, I told you the story that 4 years ago we were on holiday in over Christmas and New Year's Eve, and my daughter at midnight says to me, "How much money do you make for Moelis?" And I was like, "Why? Why do you need to know this?" She's like, "No, I hope you're profitable because you're 3 years into this business, and I hope you're making money for Ken." And I was like, "Oh my God, Ken doesn't ask me these questions on New Year's Eve, but Tara does." So that's how much she owns my success, and I think that's really important for you as a mom and a partner, that your partner and your family really realizes that what makes you a complete person, fulfilled person, a happy mother is your job, and they need to respect that.
I agree with her that if you're not married yet and you wish to marry in the future, and you wish to settle down in the future, choose your spouse very carefully, because being married to someone who doesn't want to just let you be and give you your basic human right to go out there and work is a problem that you won't be able to override very easily. I think it's also very important that you marry into a family that also understands that you have equal rights as the man when it comes to going out there and achieving your dreams and you're fulfilling your ambitions. So in my case, I was blessed because I married somebody who we have a joke between us. He says that I'd rather have you work and keep busy than sort of be at home and drag me. So yes, he has his fault of not picking up his socks or not being very orderly at home. But he's just so fantastic, really, I tell you, in terms of I can be who I want, I can do what I want, I can go where I want, I can think how I want. And that's just such an ideal situation. It doesn't happen to everybody, but that's why, both of us are here saying that pick your spouse very carefully and pick the family that you get attached to very, very carefully. The other thing I'd like to sort of, share with everyone that this is not a very easy journey that woman takes when you decide to also work and also achieve success in your area of employment or your profession. And you also want to have a family that is happy, prosperous, and their well-being is well taken care of. The balance, is very difficult to achieve. It does take the mickey out of you. So be prepared for it. It's not like you put on your dancing shoes and waltz away to go in this journey. No, बहुत मेहनत लगती है. Sometimes you do achieve a balance, sometimes you don't. But that constant strive does remain within you, that you want to do your best in both the zones. And looking back when you're 60, 70, or 80, you don't want to say I ignored my family or I ignored my career. This balance is very difficult to achieve. And I feel women who also have a family and also have, an ambition at work are working very hard 24/7 and 365 days a year, and probably all of the years that they, decide to go out there and work. So, mehnat bahut lagne wali hai. But, end of the day, if you're working and you're successful at what you do, or if you're not successful at what you do, you're average. You're just a master of your own self and mistress of your own self. And that's a great feeling. That's a great feeling. And it's worth it to kind of take that journey to achieve that feeling. And honestly, in this new world that we will now live in post-COVID, I don't think this question should even arise that should a woman work or should a man work. It should just be, yeah, of course, if both of you want to work, you can work. If you don't want to work, don't work,
Vinay, as a newly married man, is listening to your tips very carefully, Kritika. You're scaring him. Poor guy.
So as you said, I've actually chosen the right.
In fact, he's just gotten married, but I have a few tips for him lined up of what kind of a father he should be. That will come in a few minutes from now.
So, because we didn't want to have like a physical baby, we just launched our virtual baby with Will from Zero.
Good virtual baby. Good start.
So there are a lot of common misconceptions, and there's so much that which is spoken into the negative light, which I'm sure there is. So you can talk about one examples into both your industries, but there are obviously positive things also, in every industry. So if you could highlight those as well.
So in my industry, we in the experiential industry, and I always say this on different platforms, that we as an industry are definitely more evolved when it comes to the gender balance, vis-a-vis probably the film industry or television industry in India. But having said that, we also have our drawbacks. So ageism does prevail even today in the experiential industry. Uh, and I think it's time for it to go, because my job as an anchor, I'm primarily an anchor. I've now become an actor, and I also have my own content company now. And I also write and all of that. But primarily, I've been an anchor for 2 decades. I don't see what my job has to do with the way that I look, or how old I am, or how healthy or not healthy I am. I'm not using the term fat because you don't use it anymore. And I have often banged my head against the wall, trying to make people understand that what does it have to do with the core of my job? And you should only cast basis the project. So if this project of yours requires a particular kind of anchor, you cast that. If this requires a B particular kind of anchor, you cast that. But to discriminate against talent just because they look a certain way, or are of a certain age, or are of a certain marital status, it's ridiculous. It's so passe. It's so old world. I mean, we will need to grow up. So that still is happening in our industry too. And I think with time, hopefully it will go away when more of us speak about it. But having said that, I think our industry is pretty much, we're not as bad as the other industries in the media and entertainment world. Also, in terms of pay, disparity between both the genders. As anchors, I think many times women get paid more than men, really. So yeah, in many ways, we're much better off. Yeah.
So just to add, I mean, I think, every industry has the same issue, because I think what we suffer from is a patriarchal mindset in our country, which we're not rid of, right? So there is a genuine belief which we carry from home back into work that, the male form is superior and the female form is probably there as support staff and admin. And it's very difficult to reconcile to a woman who wants to be your equal. And I think you face that challenge, and women who are trying to sort of, thought that whole thesis are basically face a lot of objectification, face lots of sexism, face a lot of issues, face a lot of challenges to just be taken seriously, I think. And I think today it's probably better than before, because at least organizations want to have a more diverse workforce. When I started off, there was no such thing. You couldn't go to anyone and put forward your issues and say, this is what I'm facing, because these were not even issues that were thought of. I think is changing. I think what Geetika said in terms of being able to work online and now working away from distant working, I think should really help women. And I think corporates are taking to that well. They're taking to work from home, offline work, weekends off. When I was started work, there was no question of having Saturday off or Sundays off. All that now I think people respect. So I think the journey is slow. It's been a very slow, arduous journey for women, and the support has been less. But I think over time, there is improved awareness. And I always say that what I'd like to see more is more supportive homes. I want the whole mindset at home to change. I want the mother-in-law, the father, the husband to cheer the woman as much as they cheer the male counterpart for a promotion or a pay raise, or just the act of working. Because as Geetika said, working for a woman is a 24/7 job. You come home and you have a bigger job at home. So I just want more cheerleaders at home. I think the corporate India is slowly embracing. It's not great, but I think the biggest frustration I feel is that young people today quit because the pressure at home is so enormous on the women that you don't need to work, look after the children, look after the parents. So that's what I'd like to see happen in the next 10, 20 years.
I'd like to share another insight here about our country as a whole in general. That 48% of our population is the female gender, and yet we have one of the lowest labor force participation rates anywhere in the world. Less than 1/3 of women in India are either working or are looking for opportunities to be employed, and that's a disastrous statistic for any developing country. So the government has taken up many initiatives in the past. You have had social initiatives, economic initiatives. Many have been successful, but I think until you combine, in our country at least, economic initiatives with social initiatives, it really is not going to change the social structure that has been framed by a very, very long-term patriarchal system in our country is not going to change unless we have more social initiatives going out there to change the structure of our society. See, end of the day, how many women are going to go out there and say, I'm willing to be on my feet 24/7 because I got to take care of the family, rear the child, and also work and make my dreams come true. It's a very, very difficult task at hand. And somewhere I think the men need to pitch in big time, and that balance between men and women in their roles in the family structure in India really needs to drastically improve and change and get more balance. I know that women give birth to children, but having said that, why is rearing only looked at as her responsibility, and why does her career really have to take a backseat when it comes to taking care of your child for the first 15 years, 10 years, or whatever? So until our social structure changes, I think we're looking at a very slow pace of change.
True. What are your views on this?
So like basically, I haven't seen too much of, in the corporate structure, because I've been an entrepreneur from the very start. Like I started from my college itself, my first company. And in my company, I have always been, supportive of putting women up front, like in the front jobs, because as far as I knew, when it comes to men, I'll give you a very simple perspective. We know like 50% of the skill set, and we show it as it, we are 90% on it. And we keep doing that repeatedly unless somebody comes out and, tells us on our face that you're not good at it. And then a woman comes in and she thinks that, she's 50%. And when you actually give her the task or give her the job, she comes out at least 70 to 80% in that skill set. So that mindset we started changing, when we were working and we were hiring more people. So we knew that, there are particular fields where women are actually extremely well, and they're doing much, much, much better than men that we were hiring already. And they actually did not even know what kind of pay scales they should get, So that this mindset actually starts at home, where, they're treated in the same manner as Manisha told, like, there was no difference between both the child, like if it is the boy or a girl, from the home, they start learning all these things. And we are lucky to have good parents that, they have taught us, even though we are two brothers, we don't have a, sister in our home, but we still were taught all these things while we were going to school. And this learning process starts at home. And that's what is very important, like how women can actually help another women understand this power, that you are good at what you're doing and you can ask for it. You can ask the right price for what you're doing in the market. And all these things we need to teach women in the coming times, and that's what actually will change the entire mindset at home as well.
Next time, Vinav, get your mom on the chat. She's the real person. That's what you need. You need moms like that who teach their boys that they are equal to girls right from childhood. So it's so ingrained in you that you think no other way, right?
Right.
Sort of perceptive enough to see the issues that women are having at work in terms of just not putting themselves out there. So let's get your mom on next time.
100%.
And I'd like to add what you just said, that in India, generally, while bringing up girls, we tend to say that, when she grows up, we have to give her away in marriage. All you need to do is just give her an education, and also not give her away in marriage. You could also get the son-in-law home, for that matter. And mothers and fathers today have a very important role to play in the society of the future, because you're bringing up the future men, and you have to bring them up to attain full manhood, where they fully understand their responsibility to mankind, their responsibility to humanity. And if you're bringing up wise, evolved men, it's just going to lead to a better world, not just for the women out there, but also for the men out there. So fathers right now have the opportunity to play the greatest role in social change that we want to see, especially in Asian countries.
Very good point, Gitika. I agree totally. Agree entirely.
So now talking about people starting from zero, people who are just starting their career, or students who've just completed their education, they might be looking for one piece of advice, right? So what is it that Gitika, you, Manisha, you, and Vinav, you can give them?
Manisha, you want to go?
So look, I started from zero twice. I started 2 firms in India, and I think The second time is always was much harder. I was older. Second, it's a very lonely journey. And when you sort of been in a large organization for 20 years, you forget how lonely it is. The first time you know no better, you go out there and play your best. The second time you're used to a large infrastructure, large organization, and then suddenly you're lonely. And a lot of people that you thought were your friends in the corporate world aren't really your friends. So you're sort of, just grinding alone. And I think what you need in that journey is resilience, faith in yourself, and to be a self-starter. Because don't expect anyone in the corporate world to come and hold your hand and say, look, guys, we're going to support you in the journey. It's a competitive world. It's a cutthroat world. And you just need to believe in yourself and grind and, successful years. I strongly believe in that.
So I kind of agree to more or less to everything that you said. When you're starting from zero, it's also more fun, isn't it? Because you're crafting your own journey, with your own hands. You're starting from zero. Like her, I also built up from zero twice. First in about 2000 and then in 2013. So today, when I look back to these last few years, I look back with a great amount of pride because I know that I did this completely on my own, completely on the basis of my hard work or whatever little skill I had been blessed with, by focusing on my craft, by just being a good human being at work. It's just my hard work. It's my success. And when you look back with a lot of pride. So it's always more fun to build from zero. That is where every journey starts, and believe me, that's where every journey ends also. So you got to be ready for that zero also. If you make it big, great. If you don't make it big, still great, because as long as you've had a happy life as a human, I think that's also good enough. But if you have a double whammy of having a happy life as a human and also having a happy life as a professional, then superb, then you're being blessed.
Right. So yeah, in our case, because this build from zero has been in my mind for such a long time, a lot many things that I can talk about how to start from the scratch. But there are few very, very specific things that, like the people who are getting into entrepreneurship today or starting their new journeys, they are always stuck on basic 2-3 things. That is like, how should I start my company? How will I raise money? How will I raise the funds to, sustain the company? And how should I find the right co-founders and things like that? But the basic thing they forget is they are not actually looking at the customers the right way. So when you are actually thinking of an idea or doing something from the scratch, first go to the customer, talk to them, and then build your product or services around it. Because starting from scratch means like if your services are or the product is ready to go to the market, before that you should know there's a customer for it. So then that makes everything in one line for them very easy. For example, there have been companies who have built exact model like Amazon in India. So we don't even have to tell that it is something not tested, because they just had to scale the right way. And people who have the right execution strategy for their customers will scale really well. So starting from scratch, like in our case, when I started, I was a student, right? I was still in college, doing my graduation. So it was really, really easy for us to go out and talk to people and do the mistakes, at least 10 times in a year, and still come out well, because the next year we were still saying, oh, we are a student-run startup or we are a student-run initiative. So start early, do the mistakes. And when you get out of the campus or when you're early in your entrepreneurship life, you can actually go out and correct those mistakes at the right time and learn from them really well. And that's where you actually start understanding how people work, how customers think, what are services you should actually bring out in the market. A lot of such things. If you're doing innovation, this is the primary thing that everyone needs to learn. That's
No, you raise a really good point. I think the biggest takeaway from what you said is that don't be daunted by failure, because as an entrepreneur, you are going to face failure, and fail fast, fail well, and recover well. I think for me personally, failure has been a much better friend than success. Success sort of numbs you. Everyone's great, so you feel great. But I think failure is what is character building and actually makes you think more about efficiencies, cash flows, actually making money, about your putting your customer first, making sure your business is profitable. We've forgotten the days that earlier every business used to be profitable. Today you just run on losses, and that's unsustainable. So I completely agree with you. Very well said, Vinav, that failure is your best friend, and treat it like that and learn from it.
So yeah, I guess we've covered pretty much everything. Is there anything that Manisha or Gitika you'd like to add apart from what we discussed?
Well, we are now in the COVID age, and whether or not we fully agree with it or not, the world will change to a great extent now once all of this settles down. And I think that whether man or woman, all of us need to now go back to simpler lives, go back to respecting and treasuring our environment, and to also focus primarily on our happiness quotient rather than focus on our success quotient. And once we start implementing these ideas and these concepts that I've just sort of named, a lot of things will change within society, within organizations, within nations, within. We just need. We will now probably head towards a whole new world, and if in this whole new world somewhere a gender balance can be better and faster achieved, it will be such a nicer whole new world. But for that, really, I'm saying parents of the next generation play a very, very important role, and parents of boys play a very, very important role. So do your bit, guys, because we do want to give our children not just a safe planet, but also a better society to sort of live in and spend their life.
That's so right. We are so lucky to have, the right kind of parents to have like that upbringing. Both, like we are both two daughters, two sisters, and two brothers. But both the parents, like his mom dad and my mom dad, they've actually spoken about these things right from our childhood, and it's actually helped us a lot in our upbringing, our careers, everything.
You're blessed. Both of you are blessed. And the world needs parents more like your parents. So you're both blessed. You should count your blessings. But I think, as Gitika said also, in the world post-COVID, I think for young entrepreneurs, like yourself and others, there'll be a lot of opportunities. There'll be a lot of recalibration of businesses, but there'll be a lot of opportunities, not dominated and led by tech. I think, the conversations like this shows you that, whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it's financial services, tech is really going to lead and dominate. And I think, the young people who really understand tech were born to the world, as I tell my daughter, you were born in the virtual world. I'm not. They live in the virtual world happily, teenagers. But I think all of your generation, which was born to this world of technology, can really embrace the opportunity, especially from a country like India, which can really be the office to the world. And I think I'm excited for all of you because I think you're born at a time where India has so much opportunity. There's a recalibration of the world power that's happening. And all of you just need to embrace these opportunities, use the next 6-12 months to think through carefully what you want to do, raise capital, make sure your businesses are profitable. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more successful entrepreneurs in the next 20 years than there were in the last 20 from India.
Can I quickly add to what Manisha just said, that India will play a very important role in the next few years on world stage when it comes to business. And that is why it's very important that we as a nation also set an example to the rest of the world of having businesses and organizations that not just focus on profits, but also focus on the core reason of why they exist and how that reason can be of help to better humanity. I think that in the next 50 years will play a huge role in the success of organizations across the world, whether you want to believe it or not. But I do feel that intention of businesses will play a huge role in their success and sustainability over the next 50 years.
That's so true. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Manisha. We'll reconnect again. And thank you both of you. Thank you. And good luck, everybody out there. Good luck.
Thank you.
Goodbye.